Hey, all, how you doing? Dost Ism, episode 23, I think. So I'm writing a paper here, a document, and I'm not really at liberty to say to whom or what for because this is kind of a joint document with a few other people that's involved with this. So I can't at liberty to go into details about it. But what I'm talking about in my paper here is I'm talking about my time that I spent to research. Uh, it took my 10 full years of research to uncover, to ask some questions that I had, to uncover questions that I had. Some of the questions that I had, I got to look at my screen here, so I don't know how it's going to do with my thing here. So what I kind of was writing, I was recounting my 10 years, 10 years, 5 months, and 22 days uh, that I spent full-time research. Because that's a question to uncover the what, which is to say the cause of the irreparable harm and damage that was imposed upon, that we were forced that was forced upon us, but moreover, by whose actions and decisions were we forced to suffer the horrific consequences for? And finally, why did the state attorney generals or anyone with the state or federal government give a shit about what was going on, didn't lift a finger about what was taking place, and includes a judicial system, which I was indoctrinated to believe was fair and equal justice, but is anything but. We've got a system where I can't tell you how many times I've heard this, and I've actually kind of witnessed it myself in our case, where judges are being bribed with annuities for summary judgment rulings. Just a quick story in our case, this is several years ago, but in our case, it's an old courthouse in St. Helens, Oregon, in Columbia County, and the the judge's chambers was right next to where the defendant's table would be, and it was an old building, so you can hear what he was talking about within his chambers, and he was talking about the payments on a $600,000 annuity over 20 years. What would those payments be? And I remember looking at him, and Charles looking at each other thinking, wait a minute, that's the value, that's the value of this case right now. And he came out, he got back to his phone call, and the judge walked out, and he looked right at us, and kind of just gave like a little shit ass grin, and then went on the bench. And I can't prove that this was what was the case, but I'll tell you one thing: when they did get that summary judgment ruling and the house was gone, guess what? That judge, he retired on that $600,000 annuity. And so, I mean, this is taking place, and I know it's taking place. So these questions I had, and I'm thinking to myself, how do, in my research here, I'm trying to figure out how is it that I'm responsible for my actions and my decisions, which we all are, but who is responsible for the harms and damages that I suffer or you suffer because of the actions of somebody else, right? How many times has a credit card not posted when it was supposed to post, even though you paid it, or a mortgage payment that was supposed to post that didn't post even though you paid it? How is that? How is it that you can go and get apply for a refinance, but the refinance falls apart, and you sit back and you wonder to yourself, wait a second here. It's like these motherfuckers deliberately try to damage my credit so that they can force some kind of a default or force some kind of a financial crisis, personal crisis, that they can come in and steal something. How many times has this happened to people? With the economic collapse, I had a Ford F-150. I love yellow, and it was yellow. I just love the yellow. It's a bright color. Anyhow, as a result of the economic collapse, we were able to renegotiate our payment, our contract on the payments on this car loan. And I think it was with Citibank, and we did it. There's no problem. They had no problem with it. We did it, and we lowered the payments. Everything was fine. And then about 6 months later, a tow truck pulls up in the car in the lot and starts towing my vehicle. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Oh, we have an order here to repossess the car. I said, I'm not late on any payments. I'm not late at all. Here's a contract that we negotiate everything. Said, not our problem. We're just here to take the car. Well, it turns out Santander bought this bill of goods from Citibank, and they decided not to honor the contract. Where was my remedy? Where was the attorney general? Where were the state's attorney generals here? Why wouldn't anybody assist in this matter? Why? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because the legislature, in their laws between 1998, 2000, 2002, determined that the business of banking is the most important industry there is that we have. And we must not interfere with the business of banking at all because they're the most important thing. We can't upset the business of banking or any of its incidental businesses. That includes title companies, insurances, home insurances, mortgages, of course, financial services, servicing, loans, and everything. Anything that's connected with the business of banking. We can't get involved with that because we cannot upset that. This is the laws of the legislature that the Office of the Comptroller in 2001, through their deregulation and preemption policies, was enacting. So what they did was because the business of banking was so goddamn important, Congress, in its infinite fucking payoffs, campaign finance and lobbying, folks, sold us out to the business of banking. They literally sold us out to the business of banking. And they said, and because the business of banking is so goddamn important, states attorney generals no longer could file causes of action. All the causes of action, rights of action to sue a bank was terminated. Terminated. Can't do it anymore. And also, too, all states' consumer protection agencies had to shut down. And when the state's attorney generals weren't really listening, I think there was the one up in Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, back in 2003 or 2004, the OCC came in. You know what they did? They took the side of the bank to defeat the government and to defeat the state government in this case. And they put out another ruling or regulation that said that absolutely forbid any state's attorney generals from having any involvement in controversies between residents in the business of banking, because you can't accept the business. You can't accept the business of banking, can you? So what did they do? So essentially, what they did is they stripped us of our rights, handed our rights over to the business of banking, and gave them immunity. So any foul, disgusting act that they do, such as when the economic collapse occurred, you know. I didn't do anything wrong. Most of you didn't do anything wrong. It was Merrill Lynch that abandoned the lending standards. Now, that's the worst business. Not even a fucking idiot in business wouldn't do that, would they? But they did it. And what happened? They started handing out homes to people who didn't qualify, who wouldn't have qualified at all, who had no business buying a home whatsoever or even getting a home whatsoever, but they were handed the keys to the house. Let's just sign here, please, and make up an income amount. Now, you'd think that somebody would fucking investigate this after the economic collapse occurred, because that's what caused the economic collapse. And of course, those people, they all lost their homes because they defaulted right away. But what else happened? All the people that did the right things, that put the down payment down and were paying their payments and did everything, all the right things, we got fucked too, didn't we? Where was the government? Where were they? They took the side of the banks, didn't they? They paid off the banks. So these were all questions that really just bothered the shit out of me when that kind of spurred me into doing my research. And I was already on the patents, okay? I don't know why. I don't know what, it's divine blessing, Sandy would say, and a couple other people would say that I'm divinely blessed. And I don't know. I can't answer that question, but for some reason, after the economic collapse, had this wild hair up my ass to start looking at patents. Why? But I did. And I started finding some things. And I didn't know anything about patents. I didn't know anything about intellectual property. Nothing. Okay, nothing. And for some reason, I wasn't liking what I was finding here. And I just every time I tried walking away from it, it's like something picked me up back down, popped me down, said, nope, you're going to do this. You need to do this. And so it became an obsession, I guess you could say. And so I sacrificed my career in architecture. When construction began to get busy after 5 years of being dead after the economic collapse, I probably should have went back to architecture, but I didn't. I stayed with this because I wanted to know all the answers. I wanted to know everything, why this occurred, because it bothered me. Why should I have to pay the consequences for somebody else's actions? Well, I answered that already, didn't I, with the OCC? But it goes deeper than that. It goes much deeper than that. And so for some reason, Sandy, I'm sorry, Sandy, I mentioned your name. Sandy Smith will know exactly what I'm talking about. For some reason, I have this uncanny ability to just be able to find information or things or I think of something in my mind, I'll be able to find the information on this. And I don't know how I do it. It just comes easy for me. So I've been able to really dial in and really dissect all the components of what's going on here. And then in May of 21st of 2021, after I had everything together, went and filed with the USPTO, and I nailed them. As a matter of fact, I paralyzed them. We paralyzed that office because what we did was we had shown them that the rule of law is formulated on rules that are immoral, and the law itself, these codes and statutes, they're just fucking business models. So law is ambiguous. So these attorneys are paralyzed. They're afraid to talk to us. They're paralyzed because they've been caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And where did we catch our hand in the cookie jar? We caught that because everything. The reason why there's no answers for anybody, no help for anybody from the attorney generals, from states, secretaries of states, from the court system, from the sheriffs, from anybody, it's because they all have their hands in this thing. They all have their hands on our asses. A little piece of our ass that they have. They all have it. They may not realize it. They may not realize that they're part of a corrupt system. I mean, judges taking annuities, yeah, that's definitely corrupt. But a regular government employee, they're probably more stupid and ignorant. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but they're more ignorant than the population at large is, because they're told to just read the screen, just do what's on the screen, and they're in their zone, right? And all these government agencies have their own zone, right? They're all compartmentalized and everything, right? So everything's done deliberately so that we don't learn of the trade secret. And what is the trade secret? Now, the trade secret is, again, you heard me talk about before, is that artificial person. It's a trade secret. It goes back to our birth. That our mother, and I said this again, I say it again, that our mother donated our intellectual soul to the government for their use, exploitation, and for the cost of birthright citizenship. And then with the deregulation derivatives, they said, fuck it, it worked pretty good. Nobody found out about it. Let's do it again. They went after our public personalities. And that's when the economy collapsed. That's when I came to the conclusion, wait a minute, how am I paying the consequences for somebody else's actions? So that's kind of what got me into looking at this stuff and dissecting it. And so I'm reminded here, I heard a story today about, well, I know about the big beautiful bill. It's a big beautiful bill, that thing. It's a big, ugly bill. It's disgusting. Well, one of the things that was slipped into this bill, this thousands of page bill, was to strip the courts of their authority and to make Donald Trump a king. It was slipped into this fucking bill. Now there was and the Republicans, God damn them, traitors. They betrayed everybody. I don't care if you're MAGA or not. If you're MAGA, you should be furious because they betrayed you. They betrayed all of us. But there was this one, so I went to town hall with, what's his name? I don't know his name offhand, some Republican, and he just got slaughtered. He got slaughtered and they weren't Democrats there that were paid to go see him. This was in a deep red state, deep red district, and these were Republicans that were there. And even if it's Republicans, to think that Republicans are so goddamn stupid that they're not going to be pissed off what's going on, that they're paid Democrats that are doing this is just ludicrous. I mean, just to even believe that is just nonsensical. But he got slaughtered, and somebody asked a question about that, about slipping this thing in there, and he said that, and I'm inclined to believe him. As much as I hate to say, I'm inclined to believe him because he did put up a damn good defense in saying and talking about habeas corpus, and he's not and he's not for that at all, and he would not vote for that at all, and he stood pretty staunch. And I kind of believe what he was saying. He said he didn't know it was in there. And I kind of believe that because that's what happens here. Some asshole, somebody, and we need to find out who slipped that text into that bill. Now, that's the same thing that goes back to this, what I was talking about, the OCC and all this. Who slipped this thing in there? The business of banking is so important. That once it's in a bill, it gets into the system and it gets into regulation. It gets enacted by the agencies. It's too late by then. And then we find out. Then years later, we find out what's going on here, or it's pinned down to something. But not everybody. Who wanted that in the bill? It's just like who wanted all these things in the bill that caused that made the business of banking, gave them impunity. It wasn't the full House Senate or the full House and Senate Democrats in Congress. It was certain people that had the ability to slip something in a bill. Because I'll tell you one thing, and I'm not trying to be partisan or nonpartisan here, but the people that I find, I don't even use names. I'll just say this: I don't believe that that everybody in Democrats and Republicans, everybody in Congress, they don't know what the fuck's going on. They really don't. They don't know what's going on because if they knew what's going on, convinced that a few people knew what's going on, especially with all this patent stuff, they'd be fucking furious. They'd be furious. But nobody knows about it. So the best way to get something accomplished that somebody, a lobbyist or something wants is you have to slip it in the bill, right? And then it gets enacted. Well, this one with making Trump a king is there'll be riots in the streets if that happens because I'll be out there. I'll be one of those people out there. But anyhow, that's not the point of this. The point of this is that yes, there's massive corruption. This system is fucked. And now they say it's been going on that the Republicans have been planning for 40 years. I think the big turning point was the deregulation that took place in the turn of the century. But not just that, but this automated system that was enacted that's all entirely on automated patented processes that launders and traffics us by connecting us to the trademark goods, products, and services of others. And also, I'm not even sure how I can explain this one because this one will just send people through the ceiling. What I found out here. What we have here is we have a system that is entirely run by automated patented processes. And who runs and every patent comes with an agreement. I'm not talking about Alexander Graham Bell's patent here. I'm talking about automated processes that whether it's governmental or whether it's something that handles information, the flow of information, the way information is interpreted, the way it is contaminated, the way it is the way that it is structured so that you and I, well, that we have two persons, right? We have one that's an artificial person. We have one that's our flesh and blood person. And God damn it, they're going to keep it independent from one another. And that's what they do. That's a trade secret, folks. That's a big trade secret. And this flows through the automated processes. So we don't realize how much we are controlled and how much we are manipulated and how we are pushed in directions that even or I would never go, but naturally have to go that way because we have to deal with situations as they confront us, right? For instance, I knew a guy in Florida, a doctor. He had paid, never missed a payment on his mortgage, had like 1 month, 2 months left. He went down and paid it off and they wouldn't accept the payment. This is Wells Fargo. Wouldn't accept the payment. Went to another one, wouldn't accept it. So they wouldn't let him pay off his mortgage, pay the whole thing off, right? So then he finds out that Deutsche Bank, I think it was Deutsche Bank, had purchased the loan. Well, by now 3 months has gone by, and foreclosure action was brought against him because after 3 months they can file for foreclosure. And I figured, okay, this is great. It's going to go before a judge. The judge certainly is going to look at this and say, "What the fuck? This ain't right." He lost his house. The judge didn't care. This guy lost the house. All this stuff, all these things that took place with this guy didn't matter. He still lost his house. Where is the justice there? Where is it? It's not there. And you know what? There's nobody there to help us. There's nobody there because the state's attorney generals have been barred from doing anything for the people. And this was done by the OCC and these rules. But more importantly, it's done by it's a system that we're in right now, which is all automated, run by patents, runs everything. It controls everything. So when you hear all this stuff about Elon Musk or all these agencies being closed down or whatever, you got to remember to yourself, patents run everything. And with every patent, if it controls us, and it does, here's the basis of it is that you and I, well, let's back up a minute. Every patent comes with an agreement that's recorded by the commissioner of patents and the commissioner of trademarks. These are agreements that are drawn up by attorneys. Some are 2 or 3 pages long. Some are shit. There's one that's with BlackRock. It's 900 pages long. Okay, I could show you stuff, and I will show you stuff that will piss you off. Will piss you off to no end, and it should piss you off to no end of the things that are being done here. You know, I just lost my thought where I was going with that. Must be age. I lost it. I lost where I was going with that. Um, but the agreements. Every agreement and all these agreements are the same thing. It presumes, it's a speculative presumption that we gave security interest in our artificial person so that they could be used in any manner that they want to use it. Okay. So that is a collateral value. That's the collateral value that we put into this thing. And we're going to go into this. I'm going to go into this a lot more in detail. This is not the United States law. Okay. This is not the United States fucking everybody. It is because they don't tell us about it. This goes something beyond that. This is something that is the higher intellect of the things that are spiritual, things that are about the universe, things that are about the soul, about God, not about religion, just about God and Creator. And it's proved that proving God exists. And there's a patent on that, by the way. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is really what I've learned in this whole everything I've done. I've uncovered some very ugly things and some very upset by what I've learned. But I understand what's going on. I get what's going on. I know what reality is now because I see the reality that's been created for us that nobody else sees. That's because I'm in tune with the patents and I see how the patents are engineering things and which direction they're taking us and everything. And I think that's what we need to learn. We've hurt ourselves because of our own ignorance. Now, that's not to say that's our fault. It's to say that it was purposely done that way. We were purposely indoctrinated to believe certain things, and then pulled in this direction as far away from where the truth lies, so that we won't even have an inkling of knowledge to even look over there. And that's what's happened here with intellectual properties. Nobody knows what intellectual property was until I got into this. I would have never thought to even look into it, but for whatever reason I did. And we're so ignorant of these facts that are out there that we don't see what's going on. And that's what happens here is we get sucked into this vortex of lies and disinformation and everything. I get why Donald Trump got elected in 2016 or whatever. I get it. I get the anger. I understand it. I think a lot of it had to do with the anger because of the economic collapse. People were pissed. They lost their houses. They lost their pensions and everything. They were angry. And Trump comes along and says, I'm going to drain the swamp. He lied to everybody, bullshit everybody, but he got elected. So I get that. I get that. But the problem here is that we have a segment of the population that is so far, they're living in planet Earth B or Earth 2, and then we got people on Earth 1 here, but it doesn't matter, equal sides. We're just ignorant because we don't understand what's going on here. We don't understand the hidden reality that's being created for us. But we could if we start tuning into patents and looking at patents. And that's what bothers me. There's no consumer oversight over patents whatsoever. It's a fucking free-for-all. It's an orgy that goes on, that's been going on for 20 years. And what's taking place in patents and trademarks is absolutely disgusting. It's disgraceful. But anyhow, I just felt like I had to ramble a little bit here about what I was upset about here, about these things that get slipped in to bills that become major problems and major issues. And Trump that is making Trump a king and stripping the powers away from the court. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. That can end this country war. This country's already been is already towards the beginning of being dead. Dictatorship, fascism. But it didn't begin with Trump. It began, I personally believe it began back with the deregulation of patents and the concealing of a business model that you and I are the subject matter of. And we're participants in it. We just don't know we're participants in it. And because of this ignorance, they've been able to run with this thing and it's a mess. So anyhow, that's all I have to share for right now. Dost Ism is the name of this little podcast here. It's YouTube. I'm posting this on Facebook. Please, if you like this information, it's valuable to you, please put a like and subscribe and share. It's an important time right now. It's an important time that we need to become more aware of our surroundings and more aware of who we are. We do have power. We do have power. It does, but it's pounding on Democrats, pounding on Republicans. That's all great and wonderful. We need to do that. But we have to realize that we have a soul, body and soul. And that soul is a participant in the universe. Oh, and by the way, I throw an ad just finish as a parting thought here. We talk about laws, talk about the laws of attorneys and codes and statutes and everything. Guess what? They're breaking the laws. They're breaking one law. They're breaking the law of nature. And that law that they're breaking is one that can't be broken. I mean, it's in stone. It's the conservation law of energy. Is that right? The conservation law, yeah, conservation laws of energy. That's a subject for another time. Until then, have a good evening, all. Thanks for joining in, and I'll see you later.